This is the story of a broken hero, Choi Daeyeon, who gets introduced to a system that lets him see ghosts at night. The system wants Choi to make the pretty ghosts fall in love with him. However, the stories and the reason these girls became a ghost in the first place are not that simple. The story begins with Choi Daeyeon, the downpour making it hard to hear anything clearly. Footsteps thump. We see Choi Daeyeon running, chased by a scary figure. Choi Daeyeon is out of breath and running with all his might. At last, he runs towards the toilets and hides there, getting into a cabinet and immediately locking the door. He is panting and trying to catch his breath when a strange figure swooshes by him, catching his attention. He turns back and sees a long-haired woman covered in blood, staring at him. She yells, "Are you done?" immediately killing him afterwards. We travel back to reality, where we can see that Choi was actually in a VR game. After the last scene, he flinches and takes off his VR set, shaking breaths leaving his mouth. Choi gets up, and we see his bedroom. He has 2 computer screens, and all his viewers are ridiculing him for his fall and mocking him. Choi, a third-year streamer, replies that it is not okay to mock him, as he was sweating the whole time, and the horror game was not a pleasant feat. VR is too immersive and real. His chat makes even more fun of him. He yells that they should try it themselves if they think he is faking, and continues saying that someday he will pass out while playing these immersive games. His viewers like to see him suffer. All of his videos are related to him suffering in horror games, the only thing he hates. He continues with another game, and this time he cleared it in one go, impressing his chat. One of the viewers donates 20,000 won, leaving a question for him. The ghost is actually pretty, can he fix her? Without answering the viewer's question, Choi goes into an uncomfortable handstand and yells, "Thank you." Choi repeats that he hates the idea of horror games and assures his viewers that he wishes he could act, but they are very difficult for him. He adds that no matter how pretty the ghost is, it is still a ghost. He states that if a ghost is pretty to you, that means you are under its spell. After saying that, he decides to end his stream. A random pop-up asks him if he will collaborate with Siggy. He replies that he is still in the process of deciding and will get back to this topic later. The chat continues, and then we see that Siggy found a very interesting game but disappeared the next day. Choi remembers that Siggy is actually his older brother. He guided him into the world of streaming and also encouraged him. Despite the opposition of Siggy's parents, they were eventually okay with his status as a streamer as he started to make money, and he could also achieve that. Choi ends the stream and states that he will be visiting his family and will be on a break. Choi calls someone, probably Siggy, but his number seems to be off. He asks if everything is okay with him, as Siggy has not been replying to any of his texts, and many days have passed since then. Suddenly, a call from his mother interrupts him, and he answers, confirming to his mother that he is about to leave. Choi is upset and tells his mother that she invited him late and that if he leaves right now, he will be stuck in traffic. But regardless, he tells his mother that he will be there by dawn and not to worry. In the midst of their conversation, a strange pop-up appears on Choi's monitor, but the text is blurred. Later, Choi stops for a break in the middle of his travels and goes to the toilet, saying that he thought he would die while holding his bladder. Upon checking his phone, Choi sees a text his Hyung sent him earlier. It is a link to some game. He tries to call him, but his number is still turned off. This makes Choi really concerned for his Hyung. Choi opens the link, and it is another link to a horror game. Choi is at first not sure if he wants to download it or not, but he downloads it anyway. Right as he clicked the download button, lightning struck the building behind, scaring him and leaving him in shock. Strangely, when he checked his mobile, the game had already downloaded. There is another confirmation asking if he really wants to download the game. Without taking it too seriously, he downloads it and figures he will stream it for fun and make some money. As soon as he placed his mobile back in his pocket, a new screen appears, saying it is finding a match for him. As Choi is traveling, it starts to rain heavily. He is heading to Munsan, Seoul, where his parents live. Choi mentions that the rain is making it difficult to properly hear anything. He is interrupted by his mobile's navigation app, which says it is recalculating the route due to deviation, and a new route reappears, urging him to take a left onto a highway. Choi wonders if there is a new bug in the GPS app, thinking that turning left on a highway is too stupid of an instruction to even advise. The notification from the app continues. It got so bad that the volume increased, and turn left kept repeating again and again. Choi became anxious and says stutteringly, "Something is definitely wrong with the GPS." Choi tries to silence the GPS, but no matter what he pressed, nothing seemed to work. Suddenly, the notification ends, and Choi looks back at the road. He sees a strange figure ahead of him. The figure did not move. Instead, it glared at him, standing firmly and still. Choi slams on the brakes and tries to stop the vehicle. However, he is not successful, and the car hits the figure, sending it flying dozens of meters away. The body slams down after colliding with Choi's car. Choi's car comes to a stop, and he collects himself and checks the side mirror, seeing a person lying there. He immediately steps out of his vehicle to check on the injured person. He tries to shake her and asks if she is okay. Choi then tries to call the police and an ambulance but is panicking and hesitating. When he checked his mobile, he could see that there was something else displayed on it. It looked like a quest. The game he had installed earlier had activated and gave Choi 3 options to choose from. All the options were relevant to his current situation. Choi tries to exit the game, but nothing worked. As he is trying to figure out what is happening to his phone, the body stands up and asks him, "Why did you murder me?" Choi is stunned and slowly glares up. He encounters a terrifying figure of a woman. It is a ghost on a highway. Choi freaks out and screams, throwing his phone. The ghost starts to approach him, relocating its bones. It instantly activated all his defensive triggers in his brain. He leaves his mobile and dashes to his car. The system recognizes his choice as A, confirming that he chose to run. Because of his fear of horror games, he sprints and screams, "What is that?" and yells that it is a ghost. The ghost glares at Choi and mutters that he is just like everyone else. Her affection drops, and the ghost ponders why everyone hates her, leaves her, and ignores her. She screams, bursting the traffic lights. The ghost yells that she just wanted to live like everyone else. Choi eagerly tries to open the door of his vehicle, but the door is stuck and not opening. The ghost slowly gets behind Choi, and when he turns around, the ghost grabs him by his neck and throws him to the ground, starting to choke him. Choi opens his eyes and looks at the ghost, and Choi is surprised. The ghost mutters, "Why did you kill me?" and yells, "Why can't you save me?" Mesmerized by the beautiful face of the ghost, whom he had thought was an ugly figure, a truck approaches them. By the time he notices it, it has already closed the gap. Choi and the ghost collide with the truck, instantly dying. The ghost, a girl that Choi needed to make fall in love with, was the objective of a quest. Thunder strikes the last rest stop Choi was at, opening his eyes and making him scream in pain. He clearly remembers his body torn apart and all his bones broken. Maybe he is not in his right mind. An old man approaches Choi and asks if he is okay. He lunges his arm and pushes him away, staring at him and very confused. Choi thinks he is the only person acting crazy, and this is not real. "It must be a dream," he mumbles. While checking his phone, he can see a notification alerting him that he died previously and that this rest stop is a checkpoint. He cannot believe it. The system reminds him that he needs to take the ghost on a date if he wants to leave the area. He recollects his thoughts, and the system displays his info. Another stranger approaches him and asks about his well-being. Choi gets up and dashes to his car, traveling back to that same highway, reminding himself again and again that all of this is not real and that maybe he was mistaken. He tremblingly reminds himself that ghosts are not real and that just because he has installed a game, that does not mean that everything happening is real. He takes the same highway and plans to get to his parents' home and rest there. He is interrupted again. The GPS starts to act up again. The route changed again, and the GPS alerts him to take a left, then a U-turn, and then go straight. He glares ahead and sees the ghost again. The ghost stares back at him as well. This time, he slams on the brakes miles away and manages to stop right in front of her. He holds his steering wheel firmly while the ghost stares at him. He questions why this is happening to him, saying he was supposed to play video games after visiting his family. He continues, saying that he does not like making changes in his life. Choi shouts that one game should not decide the course of his life and change everything in his reality. Choi's mobile gets a new notification. He suddenly checks it. It is a request. Choi clenches his teeth and grabs his phone, checking the new options given to him. He rearranges his thoughts and realizes that the system wants to increase the affection level of the ghost. If he manages to do that, he is fine. He must take care of the ghost in order to increase the level. Choi cannot decide and is scared and speechless. Suddenly, the ghost starts banging on the window and mumbles, "Why are you turning away? Why am I the only one suffering?" Choi gets scared and is paranoid. The ghost keeps mumbling and questioning her situation. Choi cannot make a clear decision and just stares at the ghost. He finally comforts himself and gathers the courage. He steps out of the vehicle with an umbrella and approaches the ghost, quietly saying, "Excuse me." The ghost stares at him, and Choi states that he is a normal person and asks if everything is okay. He offers help, specifically to drive her back to her home. The ghost quietly stared at Choi. Choi finally musters the courage to say a few sentences. He bites his tongue while expecting an answer and still terrified, and the ghost quietly stares at Choi, refusing to answer the question. The ghost approaches him again and speaks with a questioning tone. Can you see me?" Choi gets stuck and does not know what to say. He answers that yes, he can see her while he was completing his sentence. The ghost embraces Choi as if he was the one she had been waiting for centuries. Choi is startled, and both of them fall again. The ghost mumbles to Choi again and says, "I beg you not to leave me behind." She cries that it is too hard, and she wants to go home. She misses her father. Choi is startled and calms down. Choi finally saw her actual face. She hugged him and wept. Choi notices that the system was leading him to this exact moment. The ghost's condition stabilizes. Choi regrets that he has been blindly driven by fear and tried to run away from helping someone. While staring at the sky, the rain makes him get up and get back to his car to warm up. Choi places his hand on the ghost's head and pushes her away. Choi tells her that it is cold for him and he would like to go back to the car and warm up, or he will get sick. Both of them retrace their steps and get back in the car. Choi is secretly glaring at her. She is still crying. He has no idea what to do now. He checks his mobile again and realizes that the system is offering no help as well. A truck approaching from behind reminds Choi that this truck killed him previously. He recollects and ponders how he revived again. He gets back to reality and decides to get somewhere safe for the time being. He checks the car meter, and the door on her side is not closed correctly. After checking the handbrake, he lunges to properly close the door on her side. He grabs the handle and shuts the door but slips awkwardly and falls, shaking the entire car and throwing his phone down as well. Choi falls onto the girl's lap. Choi slowly sits up and checks on the girl, and he is shocked that the girl protected herself for him. The girl bites her lips and asks Choi if this is what he brought her inside for. Choi corrects himself and defends himself. He panics and starts explaining how he fell and that it was not intentional. The girl trembles. Choi tells her that he is sorry and he wanted to move to a safe place, and staying on the highway for a long time can be dangerous. The girl stares at him. Choi is dumbfounded and waits for her reply. Choi realizes that she is not comfortable and might have preferred to be here on the highway. Suddenly, the girl giggles and lets out a laugh. Choi is surprised. The girl shares that she has not been able to let out a laugh like this in a very long time and wonders if Choi was creepy or not. Thanks came from her, and she shared her name with Choi, Hayan. She then asks about Choi. Choi, stunned, looked at the girl. He replied, "My name is Choi Daeyeon," he said with a displeased face. Choi began to drive, seeking shelter nearby. Yun thanks Choi for stopping for her and offering her a ride on the rainy day. She mentioned that he must have had other things he needed to do, but he showed her some affection. She continues and tells him that it feels strange to her now. She has been stuck on the highway for a very long time and never thought anyone could even see her. She had given up hope. Choi interrupts her and asks her what happened to her and how she ended up there. He then hesitates and tells her that if she is not comfortable, she does not have to respond. Yun smiled lightly and told him that she does not know herself why she ended up there. She was dragged by a man she had never seen. When she opened her eyes, she thought she had survived but later realized that she was invisible to everyone else. She walked and walked for days and days. No one could hear her, sense her, or see her. She herself did not know if she existed or not. She realized that she was indeed killed by that man. And she cannot leave this place. She was alone all this time. Crying, she said, "I could not believe that you could see me," looking at Choi with compassion. "I am sorry," she said, interrupting her previous statements. It has been a very long time since she talked to anyone. Just thinking about her family brings tears to her eyes. Choi looked surprised. He did not think that this was a possibility. He has no words and reflects that he has no words to comfort her with. Choi asks Yun, "What if your family cannot see you as well?" She changes the topic and asks Choi if she can stay for a little longer with him. Later, she requests him to relay her final message to her family, who has been looking for her. Choi looks at her and felt the pain in her voice. He responded with a yes. They both continued moving. This interaction makes Choi wonder if this is really a game character. She must not be. She is real. He has many unanswered questions that no one right now can answer. But he deeply yearned that she could meet her family or convey her last message to them. Choi checks his mobile and realizes that the date will be ending, as her affection level has increased. Choi's car shook. Choi is alarmed and sees Yun as she is vanishing into thin air. She holds her hands together and apologizes for all the discomfort she had caused him. She recollects that she can only come to sense at night, says Yun as she is passing away slowly. Lastly, she gathers the courage to ask for one more request. Choi interrupts her and shares that he will be at his family's house for the time being, and he will try to visit her tomorrow again. He asks her if they can meet again. Yun, surprised, looks at him and smiles. And replies, "I will be waiting for you tonight," as she withers away slowly. The date ends. Choi can see that the system is giving him a score, and he had gained 80 points, and his romance level was -B. Displeasedly, he stares at his mobile. Choi recollects his thoughts and says to himself, "What is this? Are you telling me that all of this is a game?" Choi feels hollowness and emptiness. She definitely appeared there just to meet him. Did she exist in real life as well? He begs for someone to explain everything to him as he banged his head on the steering wheel. His question needs to be answered or at least acknowledged. Choi received a text from his Hyung, "Come to my place." Choi musters the energy and realizes that all this started from the link, and meeting his Hyung can help him understand everything. He tries to call him again, but the mobile is turned off again. He yells, "What is going on with you, Hyung?" Choi finally reaches his Hyung's place and goes up to his room, to find it lightless and dark. Everything is disarranged, and no one answers his calls. He enters the room and questions why he left the door unlocked. Choi sees a wall covered with research materials. He asks, "What is this all about?" His sight captures a missing person poster lying down. Up close, it is the picture of Hayan. He asks, "So, Hayan is real?" A mysterious person sneaks behind him and notices Choi. As Choi wonders about the missing poster, he concludes that the game is connected with real-life people as well. He yells, "No way," and looks up at the research material on the wall. All the material on the wall is related to missing people. Choi also remembers that there were some news reports and articles related to missing cases a while back. Does this mean that all the people in this game were murdered unjustly and became ghosts? A strange notebook catches Choi's attention. He checks the book and reads the pages that his Hyung left for him. They say that ghosts appear in the place they died and hold strong memories. Hyung reminds Choi that he cannot quit or leave the game no matter what. He needs to increase the affection level of the girls and reach an ending no matter what. Choi reads it all. But suddenly, the fire alarm goes off, and a figure with blazing fire coming from around her stands beside him. He looks at it, and there is a ghost with a bunny mask on. Fire surrounds her as she mutters, "Garden, lettuce, and seeds." The system alerts Choi to flee. The affection level is negative, and there is nothing but hatred in the ghost. The ghost approaches him, mumbling about seeds and gardens. Choi freezes. The ghost glares at him and yells, "Found you." The stove near her leaks gas, and a massive explosion takes place. Choi is still taking his time to understand the situation. As he slowly gets up, he reads 4 words written by his hyung. "I'm sorry, Doyeon, please." Was he asking for a favor? As Choi lifts his face, the bunny ghost unilives him. Another lightning strike occurs in an apartment. Choi returns to the parking space of his hyung's home. Choi gathers himself and tries to understand what is happening to him. He tremblingly asks what is happening to him and why. After calming down, Choi tries to phone his hyung again. But the number is still down. Even though he has learned a few things, nothing makes sense, and there is no one to guide him through this hell. He tried to delete the game, but it cannot be done. He even tries to throw his mobile, but it comes back to him. And there are limits to how many lives he gets in this game. Choi has already used 2 lives. Choi questions what this ghost dating sim is really about. If he told this to anyone, he would be labeled as crazy. He concludes that he needs to get that notebook back to understand. He remembers that Yun promised him to meet again. He musters the courage and decides to move on. Choi traces Yun's background and manages to reach a neighbor where her family lived. He asks a local woman, but she says that they relocated over a year ago. A father and his 2 daughters lived upstairs, but one of the daughters went missing, and they eventually left. Choi asks if she has any contact information and where they moved. The local replies that she is unaware and warns him not to disturb them, as they have finally gotten their lives together and are now focused on their own lives. Choi reflects and really wonders if they moved out. Choi decides that bringing Yun's family at night is the only time when she can freely move. His mother calls him while he is thinking about Yun's family. He answers and lets his mother know that he will be there soon and that he had something he needed to attend to. His mother shouted and confronted Choi, saying that her brother managed to get there before him, so why couldn't he do it as well? He apologized and promised that he would be there soon. Choi's attention is caught by a missing poster on a pole. It is the same poster Choi saw in his hyung's room. He recognizes it and hangs up the phone. Choi finalizes that most of the people in Yun's previous neighborhood do not know that she died and wonders if her body is found. Will she be able to move freely? Choi decides to ask Yun directly. Choi sits in the car and realizes that it is almost 3 in the afternoon. Relaxing, Choi decides to shut his eyes for some time and rest. Night came, and Yun was able to move freely once again. She desperately waited, and reassured herself that Choi promised her. Moreover, she was certain that Choi would bring her parents with him. Yun's face saddens as she continues waiting. It had started to rain, and she collected herself and sat alone in the rain. She heard a voice and questioned, "Are you okay?" It was Choi. He apologized, saying that he decided to take a nap but slept for longer. Yun, mustering courage and crying, bumps her head on Choi's chest and gently says, "I thought you were not coming." Choi smiled lightly and said, "I am sorry, I will come earlier." Both of them drove off. But Yun is embarrassed that she bumped her head and finds it hard to face Choi. Choi tells Yun that he went to her home. Excited, she asks him if her family talked about her and how they were doing. But he interrupted, saying that no one was there and they had relocated, and someone else was residing there. Yun frowned and lightly said, "Sorry for asking too much from you." Choi, smiling, looks at her and asks her if she would like to go somewhere with him. Choi tells Yun not to give up and that there must be something they can do, comforting her that he will help her. Yun asks, "Thank you for everything, but why are you helping me?" She points out that she has nothing to offer him in return for his help and that it would have been better for him to just ignore her. With guilt, Choi remembers how much he wanted to delete the game. As he was trying to answer, the system provides him with 2 choices for a reply. 1. Because you are my type. 2. Because I feel bad for you. Yun asks Choi for the response. Choi was more focused on selecting the right answer and chose option 1, telling Yun, "You are my type, that is why I have been helping you." Yun, stunned, looks at him. She asks him if he has some fetish for ghosts or something, exclaiming no shout no. He states that he found her attractive and seeing her cry hurt him, and he wanted to help. He added that there is nothing special about it. After hearing the response, Yun asks Choi, is that why he brought her near a motel? Choi, realizing his blunder, is speechless. Shocked, Choi parks the car and points out a convenience store ahead, shading the mistake. Choi managed to fool Yun, and Yun reflects on this as well, stating that people helping others often have other needs that they try to get met. She started to sob. Choi exclaims and tells her that he did not have any ill intentions towards her. Yun, laughing, relays that she was just joking. This made Choi blush, and he requests Yun to stop teasing him. She laughs. She states that she is happy and at ease that Choi is not someone with ill intentions. Giggling, she says that she was talking to herself. The convenience store was shut down due to the rain. Choi checks and says that they cannot go anywhere else right now. Yun leads and tells Choi to just book a place at the motel. Both come to an agreement. It somehow flustered Choi. After booking, Yun jumps onto the bed and shouts that it is super soft. Choi smiles. Choi asks, did you come here for the bed? Yun tells him that she has been on the highway for a long time, and the endless walking made her forget the feeling of a bed. She invites Choi, but Choi rejects since he is shy, though he has second thoughts and manages to overcome them. He shares some facts he had learned from the notebook he had seen in his Hyung's place. Ghosts wander in the area where they passed away as previous humans, and sunlight is their weakness. They are likely to disappear once the sun comes up. He gives Yun the missing poster and tells her that he found this in front of the house she lived in previously and that she has been missing for 2 years. Choi asks her what really happened to her. She replies that she also is not entirely sure. She was walking back from her part-time art job and got hit by a car going at a high speed. She fell and barely managed to regain consciousness. The driver was a drunk guy and was calling someone after hitting her. When he saw her breathing and staring at him, he approached her and strangled her, trying to kill her, but she passed out. Yun also remembers that he transported her in the car, and she remembers that he had a rose tattoo on the back of his right hand. His last location was an abandoned warehouse. Yun tried to think of anything else she could come up with but couldn't remember anything else. Choi tells her not to stress too much. Choi asks if she knew that person, but she had never met him before. Choi ponders if the driver was under the influence of drugs and tried to cover up the body after feeling guilt and being endangered. Choi clenches his fist and gets up, planning to find the location through GPS and will try to find her body no matter what. He proposes that they must catch the criminal together, and the murderer should pay for their crimes. Choi points out that if her family helps, it will be very helpful. Choi later asks her about their contact information. Yun hesitates and wonders if her family had stopped looking for her already, and what if it would only make them suffer even more. Choi comforts her and tells her that that won't happen. He tells her that her family really did their very best to find her, and the only reason they moved is because that place reminded them of Yun, and they could not bear it. He adds that her family and the neighbors were close. Choi warmly looks at her and says that her family misses her and that she is not the only one wanting to see each other. Choi says that he will help her till the end. As Yun wipes a tear, she points out that it is very touching what he is doing. She thanks him, and Yun shares her father's contact info, and Choi leaves him a message. Her father's name was Ha Byung-tae. Choi found her father's ID. Excited, Yun leaps over to Choi but slips and falls onto Choi. Both look at each other. Yun giggles and asks Choi what his expression was. Choi adds and tells her to move. Yun teases Choi, but her ears are red. Choi grabs Yun immediately, stopping her. Yun manages to fluster Choi. Choi points out that Yun should stop teasing him. Choi proposes to wash up before continuing their talk. Choi appoints Yun to leave her family a message. After writing a message, she falls onto the bed and remembers how fun and relaxing it felt. She reflects and realizes that she has been teasing him too much and that it is too much fun now. She wishes for this time to continue forever. Choi returns after taking a shower and notices that there is a missed call from his Hyung. He tries to call him back, but his number is still turned off. Yun asks if it was an important call for him. Choi reflects and tells her that it is okay. Choi decides to sleep on the floor and let Yun take the bed. Yun asks him if he is really okay with this arrangement. Choi replies, "Yes, I am okay." He adds that when he sits for too long, he often sleeps on the floor. Yun listens and asks Choi a question about what he does for a living and how he started seeing ghosts. She asks if his family is spiritual or shamanistic or something. Choi replies that they are not like that and tells her that he is a game streamer and grew up with no connection to the shaman world. Choi points out that Yun is the first ghost he has ever encountered in his life. Yun, surprised, asks if he started seeing ghosts suddenly and shyly smiles to herself and mumbles that she is his first. Yun wishes to visit Choi's apartment, and Choi reminds her that it is unbearably disgusting. That makes Yun want to go there even more. The conversation between Choi and Yun is interrupted by the sunrise, and Yun starts to realize that her time to leave has come. Sadly smiling, she asks her last question. Choi asks what it is. As Yun was about to start, she vanished. Her last words were, "Maybe tomorrow." Choi sat up and looked for Yun, but her time was up, and the date ended. The system gave Choi the points and graded his romance at -A. Choi depressingly stared at his phone. In the morning, Choi went to his parents' home and struggled to open the door. Suddenly, a picture of his father comes to his mind. He remembers that he made his father very disappointed earlier in his life. He musters up the courage and comes home, staring at his father with hesitation. He greets him and asks about his father's well-being, but his father coldly rejected him. His mother warmly accepts him and reminds him that he is late and his brother is already here before him. Choi's father asks his brother how being a president has been and if he has been eating well, completely neglecting Choi. His mother interrupts and tells Choi's father that asking someone who is already doing well in life is useless. Her mother showered praises on Choi's brother and asks how Choi has been doing these days. Stuttering, Choi answers, "I am managing somehow." This turns the table's mood sour, and his father looks disappointed and angry. Choi points out that his family has been behaving this way because he ran away from the house 3 years ago, and he has no right to be here. Later, as Choi is leaving, Choi's brother asks where Choi was going. Choi made an excuse, saying he is going to the convenience store. His brother displeasingly tells him to start getting his shit together and be serious. Hearing this hurt Choi, and he pointed out that he will take care of his mess and his brother should focus on his own life. Sad, he left and checked his mobile to see a reply from Yun's father. A text message tells Choi not to contact and pester him. They are doing just fine. Displeased, Choi rushes to a convenience store and purchases a shovel. He reflected that he has spent all his money on equipment, fuel, and the motel. Now he has to survive on cup noodles. Choi is using the store's Wi-Fi to pinpoint the exact whereabouts of Yun's dead body. The LP store had many tools to offer. Choi used the magnifying glass, which can help to find certain info. Choi bought these since it seemed much more useful than anything else at the moment. Choi finally reaches the destination, the warehouse that Yun had told Choi about last night. It is the same warehouse, as Choi confirms. He talks to his mobile and activates the GPS app and starts to find any clues to find the body. Choi is determined and ready to search the entire mountain if needed to find Yun no matter what. The sun starts to go down. Choi still has not found any clue. Choi states that this is like finding a tree with a hole in a forest full of trees. Though a thought juggles in Choi's mind. Does he really need to do this? Surely there can be someone else who can do this. Shouldn't the family take care of this? Or maybe he needs to meet Yun once again. As he is thinking, he trips and falls down. He loses hope and wants to quit, but the sight of crying Hayan reminds him that she is waiting for him. He musters up and continues the search. And finally, he pinpoints the location where the body of Hayan was buried after she was killed. Choi digs and digs around that area. Terrified, he looks and sees remains. After digging and finding remains, Choi is interrupted by someone who calls his name from behind. He peeks back and sees Hayan. She can move freely and is no longer tied to the highway where she drew her last breath. Earlier, We remember that Choi's Hyung told him that if the body of a deceased is found, they would be able to move freely. Hayan is no longer tied to the same highway and can move freely. If she is affected by the sun is a mystery that we will find out later. She confirms that he is Choi that she knows, and approaches him. Choi asks about her appearance. She looks at her hand and tells him that yes, when she woke up, she was back to normal. Ignoring her concern, she looks at the appearance of Choi and notices that his shoes are a mess. She vaguely asks him what he has been up to. She suspects that something serious is going on. She leans over to him, and Choi panics and comforts her, saying that everything is okay and nothing much is going on here, says Choi with hesitation. Hayeon's eyes widen as she looks at the remains, and it confirms the fact that it was her, and she in fact was buried there. She holds her arm and tells Choi that she knew that she passed away a while ago, even though she kept waking up like nothing had happened on the highway. Deep down, she acknowledges the fact that she is a ghost. She smiles lightly, with pain in every word that leaves her mouth. "I'm okay," she states. Choi tilts his head, and tears leave him. Hayeon comforts him gently and wipes his tears and begs him not to make that face. "It breaks and hurts my heart more than anything." "It is not your fault," says Hayeon. She pets his head and tells him to stop crying. Deep down, Choi questions his weakness and why he is so powerless. Later, Choi filed a report, and we see police searching and collecting the remains and inspecting the crime scene. 2 police officers stand alongside Choi just outside the factory. He is caught off guard by a detective. He asks Choi if he was the first person to report the missing person. He says this while showing his badge. His name is Yong Cheol from the Violent Crime Unit, and he asks for further details. He wanted to start the investigation with small questions, but really, we can see that he is not sure if Choi is innocent or not. With a double look, he said that he came from the scene, and these questions need to be answered by him only. Near the scene, there were strange patterns of someone passing, and also someone had already dug up the remains. Hearing these words sends shivers down his spine. The detective adds that this profession has made it difficult for him to trust anyone, really, and the fact that he bought a shovel and called first is too abnormal. His final question really broke Choi. The detective asked him why he was really there in the first place at this hour. He adds again that there is already a separate investigation going on, but the fact he dug up the body accurately in the wide mountain points him to be a suspect. Choi clenches his fist, and the detective corners him even more and concludes that what if he felt guilty about hiding the body after committing the crime a long time ago and reported that to the police just now. With hesitation and a weak voice, Choi replies that he felt very bad for Hayeon. The detective puts his hand on Choi's shoulder and reminds him that they have not identified the body of the remains. And how is he sure that the remains are related to Hayeon, the person he is referring to? The further the detective asked and pushed Choi, the more nervous and speechless he became. It came to a point where he felt as if he was the criminal himself. He wonders if the detective will believe the story of the horror game he had installed, or maybe explaining the story of the ghost could help him reach a different view. We see that Hayeon herself appears. "No, Choi has been helping me. He had no alternative motive whatsoever." He begs the detective to believe him, and they get interrupted by a man running toward Choi. Behind him is a truck, and its headlights are on, sending bright beams. He yells at the top of his lungs, "Hey you, is my daughter really here?" Hayeon looks and sees her father running. From the look of it, it looks like he is running to hug her. White tears fall from her cheek as she mutters, "Father." Hayeon's father shows Choi his phone and asks if he is the man who contacted him earlier. We get a flashback to before Choi reported the police. He can be seen phoning Hayeon's father and letting him know that he has found the body of his daughter, who went missing 2 years ago, and that this is not a prank call or anything. He ends his call by telling him that Hayeon misses her father more than anything. Back to present, her father grabs the collar of Choi and pins him, and asks, "Where is his daughter?" Choi's eyes widen, and he replies, "She's standing right next to me, sir." The detective is sure that Choi is mentally unstable and disturbs their interaction by introducing himself and reminding them that the victim has not been identified just yet, and they should not falsely believe anything. That is what they are here for. The detective tries to make her father leave the investigation scene. Hayan slowly approaches his father and tries to grab his shirt, while placing her other hand on her heart. She yearns that his daughter is here. "Father, I am here," she mutters. She adds that she walked barefoot on a highway. She wondered every day if maybe her family was still looking for her. These painful memories hurt and break her heart. She sees no point in continuing any of her journey, and the sole reason she has been trying to survive has turned into a massive failure. She asks, "What am I supposed to do now? I don't want to be left alone in darkness," she shouts. A sudden pop-up about attachment interrupts everything, and we see that Choi grabs the hand of Hayan and tells her father that she is here, right next to me. Choi looks at the detective and answers one of his questions on how he found the victim's identity and the remains' whereabouts. He shares that while driving on a highway, he stumbled across a blood-disheveled woman who blocked his way. That woman turned out to be dead. He further adds that this was also a first time for him. He encountered a ghost, and in fear, he tried to run away like everyone else would do. But the ghost was in tears and weeping and yelled at the top of her lungs not to let her be alone and help her. She was not just a ghost. Her name was Hayan. While saying all of this, Hayan looks at Choi, all calmed down, and as he finishes his statement, he tells them that he is able to see dead people and interact with them, and he himself believes that nobody will take him seriously for this, and they might think that he is crazy. We see now that he said the magic words. The detective again asks if his mentality is sane, and her father asks Choi, where is his daughter? Ignoring the detective, he points toward Hayan and tells her father that she is standing here. Without replying, her father looks down, like a broken man, and tells everyone standing there that he has something he would like to bring from his truck. After some time, we see that her father brought a very old toy that Hayan loved. Her father was a poor man, and all his life, he was not able to really give his daughter the luxury. But this stuffed toy was something very important to Hayan. This toy helped Hayan to fall asleep when she was growing up, and she grew too attached to it. Her father carried this toy everywhere around him, in hope that if he were to see his daughter, he would show her this and beg her to return. Her father mustered the courage and asks Choi, if my daughter is really near him, can he tell me what the name of this toy is right here? All of a sudden, Hayan's hand gently levitates that toy just above her father's hand, shocking him and everyone around him. And the toy slowly flies over to the side of Choi, and Choi replies that the toy is Manhwa. He says this with a big smile across his face. He is looking at Hayan as she is hugging the toy like it is her everything. After that, we see that Choi was asked to give his statement at the nearest police station. The police might have asked him about the details and similar stuff like that. Finally, when he was free and exited, he let out a loud thanks, stating that he was about to suffocate there. He looks in front and sees her father standing there, with Hayan standing right next to him. This time, her father treats Choi better. We see that he offered him a drink. Previously, he had shut Choi down when he requested to meet up. Both of them sit on a bench, and thanks showers from her father's mouth. He thanks and apologizes that he thought Choi was trying to mislead him. Her father explains how Hayan was a silent and diligent child who had a stroke of bad luck and ended up having a father like me, who gave her nothing back but hardship and misery. And the fact that she could not even close her eyes in peace tears his heart into 1,000 pieces. Tears overflowing, he asks, what will happen to my child? Choi looks and replies that Hayan would like to say something that is very appropriate and needs to be done no matter what. Her father replies, okay. With a warm voice, Choi lets the family of Hayan know that she is okay. She was worried that her family would struggle a lot if she were not present among them, and she did not even get the chance to say goodbye properly. But Hayan is glad that her family persevered and moved on with life regardless of what had happened to them. And her father was a brave man, and he endured so much for his daughter, and Hayan is okay with everything as long as he remembers her. She was the happiest to be born as his daughter. She is sorry that she left them first and made them sad. Tears flow as she tells her father that if she were to be reborn, is it okay for her to be reborn as his daughter again? Both of them weep, and her father grabs her arms while thanking Hayan for being born into his family. Choi gets a notification that startles him. After fulfilling the request of Hayan, She can be free and also now has the freedom to leave Earth. With shocked eyes, Choi looks as the system gives him a second option to have Hayan stay beside him for a little while. On the other hand, the toy in Hayan's hands drops as she is finding it harder to interact with things that are around her. She asks Choi, "What should I do? I don't want to leave just like this." The system gives Choi the option to date Hayan once more and extend her stay. Troubled and scared to death, she looks at Choi. This could be a part way for both of them, and Choi reminds her that they remember what he said yesterday, that until the case is resolved, they are going to stay at his place. He puts his hand on his chest and with determination he tells her that, "We still need to catch the criminal, and we probably need time for that. And I would also need Hayan's help." And she, since she herself doesn't want to leave right now, why doesn't she come to his place for the time being? And she wanted to visit it herself. Choi said this in an exciting and loud voice. It was to comfort Hayan, and also he himself was very nervous and scared to leave Hayan just like that. The voice was heard by her father. He glances back, but was not able to hear it all properly. With a slight smile, Hayan replies, "She would like to go to his place then." Choi adds that his apartment is nothing special, and it is small and dirty like hell. As Hayan enters, she lets out an announcement of her presence. "Is anyone home?" She looks around and checks out Choi's place, but to her surprise, it is much more cleaner than he told her. In a cheerful voice and smile, she tells Choi to take care of her. Later, we see that Hayan is breathing heavily as she is blushing lightly as well. Without proper context, this can be considered dangerous. We see that Choi is cheering her regarding something. At a closer look, it looks like she is trying to open the door. And at last, she manages to twist the handle, and she opens the door and yells, "It opened." But her excitement made her crash, and she smashes into the wall of the room. Without looking at herself, like a child, she reminds Choi that she can herself open a door, and he saw that, right? While sitting there, Hayan tells Choi the thing she can do. Even though she cannot hold things properly, she can at least make rice. Choi thinks to himself that that ghost cannot hold or interact with things for a long time, and it seems clear to him that Hayan would like to help Choi with the household chores. Choi replies to Hayan that he can cook the rice himself. He offers his hand to Hayan, and Hayan tells Choi not to throw her outside, and she can be of help. Hayan remembers that Choi has been relying on ramen. While Choi appreciated the fact that Hayan wants to help, it can be a little dangerous. Choi comforts her and lets her know that he will help her with anything. She would need to make sure and ask him and not feel any burden while staying at his place. He says this all with a light smile. "Let's take care of each other," he adds. As Hayan focuses on the words Choi said, she tries to understand the meaning of the last sentence he said to her, "Let's take care of each other." That means we will be living together in the future as well, she wonders while gasping. On the other hand, as Choi is cleaning the water spilled by Hayan, Choi ponders on the fact and confirms that the ghost can move freely once their bodies are discovered. Her father was very thankful and promised Choi that he would visit Hayan again. We can also see that he offered Choi some money for all his trouble. Choi lets out a big breath and tells himself that he can now take things a little easy and relax. But the main problem in front of Choi is his tight budget that he would need to adjust with. Moreover, he needs to go to the police station again, and this will cost him a lot of time. That means that he would need to work twice as much as he would normally. He turns back and tells Hayan that he would have to sleep now. He has to stream tomorrow, and it is a good time to call this an end. Hayan, confused, lets out an air. Choi prepared a nice place for Hayan and decided to sleep in the kitchen and told Hayan to wake him up if anything happens. Hayan adds that maybe she should sleep outside, but he replies that she is his guest, and she should treat herself to a good sleep after all that has happened. "Good night," he says and gently leaves. Hayan smiles lightly and thinks that he left in an awkward way, but that is his way of being considerate. As she lays down, she is reminded that this is the nature of Choi, and this is the type of person she has been with. Choi has helped her to be at peace, and she has not been in peace for a long time. We get a flashback where we see Hayan in a casual dress slurping a drink, and two of her friends are talking about a mess that their boyfriend created for them. One of the girls looks at Hayan and asks, What happened to the guy she was interested in? She replies that she was the one who turned him down, and he was a good person. Both of her friends talk down to her, saying that he was a handsome and rich guy, and why did she have to turn him down so ruthlessly? Gently, Hayan replies that she had a part-time job she was busy with, and her sister is going to need some tuition fee. That is why Hayan needs to study hard and secure herself a scholarship no matter what. Both of her friends add again that she messed up, but we get a glimpse of the shoes Hayan wore. It is clear that she has been a hard worker all her life, and dating has never been something she paid any attention to. She worked harder and kept everything in a bucket list for herself, and once she has made it to a certain spot, she would one by one do all the things she missed doing. She now regrets that there were so many things that she would have done if she knew that life is short and there is no time for her. As she glances over, she found a graduation album of Choi. Hayan wanders to the kitchen and finds Choi sleeping there. Looking at Choi, Hayan remembers that her friends asked her about the type of guy she would date no matter what, and she replied that he needs to be a little nerdy, he needs to have no girlfriends, some decent muscles, needs to be a little handsome, and someone who does really know how to dress himself up properly. She adds further that he needs to be kind and innocent to her only but be cold to everyone else and be good so that she can lean on. Hayan gently adjusts Choi's hair and warmly smiles, saying that he looks so much better with his fangs up. She thanks him for saving her, and silently lays right next to Choi. Suddenly, he places his hand on her waist and pulls her closer. This startles Hayan, and she asks him if he is awake. She tries to leave, but this time he grabs her hands and gently mutters, "Please don't leave me, Hyojeong." In the morning, Choi continues his usual activities, and this time, he ends up diving into a cute girl dating sim game. As he plays through it, something unexpected happens: the emotional weight of the story, the tough choices it forces you to make, and the beautifully written ending. All of it tugs at his heart, and without realizing, a single tear rolls down his cheek. Of course, his viewers don't let that slide. They start teasing him in the chat, mocking him for crying over fictional characters. Embarrassed but trying to play it cool, he quickly denies it, claiming that he never cries, ever, and that the tear was just from a really badly timed yawn. Nothing else. As he continues chatting and joking around with his audience, out of nowhere, a donation notification pops up, 10,001. Caught off guard, he blurts out a surprised "thank you," with a mix of gratitude and disbelief. Meanwhile, Hayan is sitting quietly nearby, observing him with curious eyes. She watches silently, realizing that this is the first time she's seeing this softer, more genuine side of Choi. It makes her wonder what kind of student he must have been in school. And then a random thought crosses her mind. Who is Hyojeong? That name he mumbled in his sleep the other night still lingers in her memory. With a hand resting under her chin, lost in thought, she watches as Choi wraps up his stream with a quick thank you to his viewers. He turns to her, rubbing the back of his neck, and apologizes for all the noise he made. "It was actually fun to watch," she says with a light smile. "And honestly, it was kinda cute seeing you cry over a game. I just yawned." He blurts out again, still clinging to his flimsy excuse like it's going to save him. Choi then asks her if she's okay with him being up late. He has some editing work left to do, and his tone shifts slightly, something thoughtful and a bit hesitant creeping into his voice. He suggests stepping outside for some fresh air, and then, more directly, he asks if there's anywhere she wants to go. She pauses for a moment, then smiles gently and says, "I'm okay, but I would definitely like to see the night sea someday." That one comment catches him off guard. Feels random, but it's also oddly sincere. Then it becomes clear. Hayan has made a list. A quiet little list of dreams and experiences she's always wanted to live out. She's never had a chance to see the sea at night. She wants to fall in love, visit an amusement park, and one day maybe even own a small store of her own. Choi hears all of this and takes a moment to reflect on her words. He looks at her, then at the screen again. "Okay, we can go," he says. But at the same time, the game screen pops up with 4 options, for different choices, all wildly different from each other. He hesitates, muttering how these kinds of choices could get him killed if he's not careful, and starts weighing the consequences of each. Just as he's getting lost in thought, Hayan sneakily moves closer and whispers, "I'm waiting." Startled, he stammers, "I'm just thinking about where to go." And then, without thinking, words spill from his mouth on their own. "It's a bit overwhelming to go all the way to the sea. Maybe we can just go see some water nearby?" As soon as he says it, he goes quiet. His eyes widen a little as he processes what just happened. It was like his mouth had moved before his brain could stop it. That offhand reply makes the affection level of Hayan drop ever so slightly. She doesn't say anything harsh, but her smile falters just a little. Still, she agrees. So they decide to visit a reservoir not too far from where they are. And to Choi's surprise, Hayan genuinely enjoys it. She walks around with a bright expression, thanking him sincerely for bringing her there. With a bubbly laugh, she urges him to keep up, and for a brief moment, everything feels warm and simple. Choi is sure now. He picked an option that wasn't even part of the original game. And now, he's not entirely sure what just happened, or why it feels like something important just shifted. A little anxiety starts to creep in. He can't shake the thought. What happens to Hayan when the game ends? Is she even real? His questions remain unanswered. Softly, Hayan breaks the silence and asks how old he is. When he tells her, she's surprised to learn that he's older than her. Choi shrugs and says, "Let's just say we're both old enough that things don't need to be awkward." They continue chatting casually, laughing about college life and future jobs. Choi starts complimenting her looks, half joking, half serious, and with a playful tone, Hayan teases him right back. "You hugged me really tight last night," she says, smirking. "Is that your killer move to win over innocent girls?" He quickly brushes off the topic, flustered, but the moment feels light and sweet. The atmosphere around them glows quietly, and Choi notices the affection level ticking back up. Then, in a softer, more hesitant voice, Hayan asks about his graduation album. But before he can even open his mouth to answer, a loud thunderclap crashes right in front of them, making him jump. When he turns to check on her, she's gone. Just like that, she's disappeared into thin air. Panicked, he calls her name again and again. No response. But then, the game screen flashes. A new matching has begun. A dark-haired figure floats near the fence, staring directly at Choi. Terrified, he stumbles backward, and that's when he notices something even worse. There's a body behind him. And just as the screen fades out, the system voice calmly announces, "The life-risking dating sim has only just begun." And that's the end of today's recap. This story just keeps getting more interesting, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss future uploads. Got a manhwa you want me to cover, or any feedback on the content? Feel free to drop a comment or reach out. I'm always open to suggestions. And just a quick reminder, all rights belong to the original creators. This is just a fan recap, and I highly encourage you to support the official release if you enjoyed the story. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.